episode of Bob's Woodshop. This is a project I started several months ago. I just finished the twice turned portion of the project. I started it, like I said, several months ago. And in this video, I'm going to show how to do the second turning. So this is a gorgeous piece of Ambrosia maple. And check that out. And this was a lot of fun to make. This is a gift for one of my nieces who just bought her first house. And so this is a nice housewarming gift. So stick around and I'll show you how I finish this off. So like I said, I started this project several months ago. I actually posted a video on it on May 22nd. When you turn a freshly cut piece of wood like this was, you have to let it dry after you do the initial turning. And once the vapor and the water starts coming out of it, it will go oblong. And then you have to put it back on the chuck and then turn it round again, and you can actually turn the oblong right out of the bowl. So as this bowl dried and all the moisture came out of it, the bowl goes oblong, and the reason it does that is all the water comes out of the end grain, and during that drying process it goes out around. So I'm addressing the bowl with a 1/2 inch bowl gouge and a 5/8 inch bowl gouge. I'm trying pull cuts and push cuts and shear scrapes just to see what's best on this particular piece of wood. I found that depending on the piece of wood, you have to use different types of cutting methods. But initially this piece, it looks very, very punky, which means it looks like a sponge almost in the end grain area. And I was really concerned about even getting it off the lathe. But the deeper I went, the smoother it got. And I didn't have to address it with any, say, glue or epoxy in order to fill in any of that punkiness. You can see on the very top end right there, there was a big chunk that came out of it, which is about 1 inch deep. So this bowl would have been a little bit deeper if I did not have that big piece come out of there. So here I'm doing a shear scrape, and again just trying to take my time, primarily trying to move my body and not necessarily my hands, so that I can control the gouge better. As you can see, it's certainly looking better. And look at that, at the very top there, it's still very ragged, so I certainly have a little bit more work to do. This final turning took about probably 1.5 hours, 2 hours, and I'm certainly condensing it down into less than 10 minutes for your viewing pleasure. But it takes a little bit of time, but as you'll see in a little bit, the end result is worth the effort. So here I'm just preparing it to do some sanding. I'm using different sanding techniques, primarily with my electric drill. I also did some hand sanding. I started here with 40 grit, again because it was kind of punky and I had to get all that out of there. You might have just noticed I had the motor turning in reverse, which is a nice feature of the Nova Galaxy, and I did that so that the sawdust would be going into my dust collector, just to reduce the amount of sawdust going around the shop or into my face. Here I'm going at the inside, and I'm using various either bowl gouges and or scrapers, and I like using negative rake scrapers because you get a pretty smooth edge with them. And I'm using a large one, and I'm also going to be using a smaller one. Here it's getting a little bit smoother. And here's one of the 5/8 inch bowl gouge I'm going here. What I noticed, the rim was a lot thinner than the inside of the bowl. So I'm hogging out some more towards the center. When you're turning a bowl, you would really like to keep the thickness of the bowl the same from the bottom all the way to the top. That helps prevent cracking. Here I'm using my double-sided calipers to again measure that thickness of the bowl, and that's why I started using this bowl gouge, because the center of the bowl was much thicker than the rim of the bowl. And the object here is just trying to make this as thin and consistently thick all the way down, and then you can start the sanding process. I do want to clarify, a lot of turners like to make bowls very thin. I like to make utilitarian type bowls that can be used for salads or as centerpieces, and I typically make my bowl somewhere between 3/8 of an inch thick and a 1/2 inch thick. Here I'm going at it with the electric drill sander setup, and here I'm getting ready to use my vacuum chuck. So this is a large bowl, and I've got to take this tenon off the bottom of the bowl now. So I'm not quite centered right here, and it's a little bit off center, and I had to make an adjustment to get that exactly centered. But having a vacuum chuck is a great way to hold the bowl onto the lathe head. Now, even though I have a vacuum chuck, I still like backing it up with my tailstock and the center support there until I get the tenon completely off. Now here I've taken the tailstock away, and the bowl is held on to the vacuum chuck. Again, a great accessory. Different ways to hold bowls onto the headstock, but vacuum chuck I think is the best way. Here I'm just doing a little bit of hand sanding with the grain and just cleaning off the excess sawdust with my air compressor. Okay, so it's looking pretty good. Sorry about the excess light there. I got a lot of reflection, so I have a lot of lights around my lathe. Here's what it's looking like as I'm getting ready to put some finish on it. Again, this is a spectacular piece of wood. It has so much grain structure to it. It's a very, very pretty piece of wood. Now, I'm a little bit disappointed with this, because typically when you have this much grain structure, you can see different objects in there, like people's faces or shapes of states, things like that. And I didn't really see anything unusual in that, but it's still a very interesting piece of wood. So for the finish on this particular bowl, I'm putting on a couple coats of shellac as a good base coat, and I finished this up with a couple coats of semi-gloss clear polyurethane, and it came out really, really nice. Polyurethane takes about an hour or so to dry in between, and I ended up putting 2 coats, and here's what the finished product is looking like. I think Julia is going to be very happy with this. Maybe you can see an object in there. I don't. So my wife usually puts my name and date and the type of wood on this, as my handwriting is terrible. Okay, so that's how you turn a bowl twice. You guys know the drill. If you like my channel and like my content, please comment, like, and subscribe. And I'll see you on another episode of Bob's Woodshop. Thanks for tuning in today. Bye-bye.